an indicator somewhere that we could address to try to back up, before it happens.
And again, I don't have that readily available,
sure,
but I
sure.
can get it to the committee. I can certainly get it to the chairman. But I don't have that answer in front of you, but I know it is bad among men, and we.
43% is huge.
It's
That's
huge.
half, almost half of the male workforce. The second question was, and y'all are speaking around something I think that you're hitting nail on. You were talking about personal finance and things, and I wonder if there's a correlation that you could see with the transportation. Obviously, it's as I've got kids are almost grown, but not quite grown. I'm saying it's not what you make, it's what you do is what you make. So that piece is how you break the generational cycle. I think a lot of people are in is the education. I think the personal finance piece speaks greatly to that, and it takes a lot of embedding, if you will. But I wonder if there's information that's available that speaks to that people without car rate. If it's 15%, but where you taught that and had success, maybe it's 2 or 3%. You said that's something you struggle to find the answer to. I wonder if that's the case. And I wonder if, a lot of just the Delta being a place where a lot of people that are in poverty are just in victim of predatory business models. Is that a right way to say something?
It could be. I mean, we have not solved, but we made a huge dent in that problem in healthcare because we have vans
Yes.
that go pick people up, bring them to the clinic, and we have a mobile clinic that goes around to all the little places that they are. So that has been not solved, but it's made a huge dent in the
It's
number of
moving.
people. It's moving the needle quite a bit in people that we see. We are not, I mean, we do some workforce because of what we do. But we're not the workforce, so I don't know, I don't think I'm really qualified to answer that, but for healthcare, we have had to hit it two ways. We've had to take it to them, like in the clinic,
Yes, ma'am.
and we've had to go get them and take them back. But for our workforce, it is majority, I mean, not all of it, but the majority is, high school kids or people with kids in school. So that's been, that's, where our experience has been.
Thank
Or the opioid people, which they're patients, so we can move them back and forth,
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Senator Simmons?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mrs. Matthews. I have a question. I know you mentioned about the life skill training, the outcome from the life skill training in St. Cloud County. Do you have data for the other counties as well?
I do. I have data for all the Delta counties that we teach life skills in. I'd be glad to get that to the committee. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharon. Any other questions, Sharon Parker?
So who's providing the life skills training?
Delta Health Alliance employees, or after a while, we train the people in the school district to do the life skills training. We initially come in and do it ourselves, and then we sort of train the trainer. And if there's somebody that picks it up, then like for Sunflower County, we eventually had somebody in the school system that would do it.
And so it's a small kind of piece. It's not like a class that extends. It's just
It's the whole,
little
like the whole
snippets.
6th grade will go through it, and the whole 7th grade will go through it, and the whole 8th grade will go through it.
but not like for an entire term. It's just someone who's coming in and sharing.
Yeah, we'll
Just
do
go
it
through.
for part of a class. We'll do it for like, let's say 20 minutes of either a homeroom or whatever the superintendent wants to, or whatever the school superintendent wants. Sometimes it's part of a consumer economics class. Sometimes it's part of there are different classes that life skills can be fit into.
Right.
But it is fit into the class for the whole semester, yes, sir.
Because we're looking through a different task force. We're looking at mental health in high schools. And some of the recommendations have been to try to get some counseling and other peer-to-peer type of networking going on in the school at an earlier age around everything from suicide prevention to other different things. And we're just trying to figure out, okay, who would be the point person in the school system to do that? And there are people, who think that it could be someone from a teacher's assistant, to a school counselor or somebody like that. But if we are going to do something like that, this seems like something that can be added to the role of that person.
You could train. I mean, you don't have to have any special training to
Right.
do life. I mean, you gotta have. I think you gotta have a little gray hair and life knock you around a little
Right.
bit. But I mean, it's a curriculum that you teach whoever how to teach the students, and then they ask questions, and really the highest dose is 6th grade, and then you lower the dose as you go along to
Right.
all the way to the 10th grade. If they hadn't gotten it by 10th grade, forget it. I mean, you can't teach in 11th and 12th, you know how they are. I've had children, so you know. But we did learn through trial and error to start that early.
Perfect.
But I don't know that you have to have any particular type of person to be able to teach it.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Simmons?
Thank you. I have a question. I'm curious to know, what is the Imagination Library?
Imagination Library is, we have it in 17, I think all 17 counties, right? 17 counties. I'm almost positive that number's right. Might be 19, but I think it's 17. And it is through Dolly Parton Foundation, and so for every dollar we put into it, Dolly Parton's Foundation puts in $2. But any parent can sign up, and the child gets a book in their mailbox from 0 to 5 once a month. And the book is whatever the Dolly Parton Foundation thinks is age appropriate for that child, age and gender appropriate for that child. And it will send directly from the Dolly Parton Foundation to the child. And then what we do to reinforce it is we have readers go into libraries and schools and everything. And the nice thing about it is every child has the same book.
Thank you.
That's been about 2 decades now.
Yeah, we've had that thing going for almost 20 years, yeah. I mean, it's expanded. It's expanded over the years. You know, it started in one county and then it just expanded. But yes, that's been going on. And it really helps because I've had grandparents show up to Delta Health Alliance and want more books because their kids were teaching them to read.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Thank you so much. I think you will get a lot of requests for additional information. This was very helpful, and I do think across the region, you know, you shared obviously counties, but thank you for the work you're doing. I appreciate you coming.
And I'll send you this.
Thank you so much. Now joining us, Robert Maxwell from the Port of Rosedale. Had an opportunity to spend time with him the last few years, serving on the Ports Committee, and just want him to talk a little bit about the workforce, the impact from the port, and the good work they've been doing. They've kind of been a model putting together projects, and I would say this, Robert, investment over time, not overnight, but you know, nothing's an overnight success. But thank you for being with us today, and I will turn it over to you.
All right, well, thank you very much, I appreciate it. I am not an expert necessarily in workforce, and speaking is not my forte, but luckily I've got a few friends here, so I appreciate that. What I want to do with this here in a minute too, though, is just kind of give you, as you mentioned, the investment that we've done, and the reason that we've done it is because I'm not an expert in workforce so much as I feel like it's our goal and our duty to increase the opportunity and by improving the infrastructure for economic development at the port, which will in turn hopefully create, you know, a larger workforce, a more opportunity for the workforce that we have. You know, they're as you mentioned, they're quite a large number of employees that leave this area for work, whether it be, you know, daily, temporarily, whatever the case may be. I feel like we do have a workforce. And even though we do, and we are working toward, you know, creating more industry and more business for that workforce that's already here, I feel like there's still maybe not quite enough, you know, and so that may be the reason that they're leaving, you know, for that purpose. I'd asked some of our port tenants out there, because obviously with us being a county facility, our situation is a little bit different, so I asked some of these private businesses kind of what their thoughts were, you know, about the labor force, and then I had to go back and ask myself, yeah, but what about the people that you kept and the people you like? Let's talk about those too. I said, those, you know, do you have a good group of people? And I got a number anywhere from 25 to 50% or maybe more, a little more, and that's the number that they keep on, that stay with them. Jantran, I said, they told me about 70 65 to 75% of their employees that they hire leave after about 3 months after they train them. So they have a high turnover rate. I know some of that is related to drugs, and some of it is just, I think it turns into more work than they expected when they got there. That's one thing. You know, and I apologize. I don't do good with notes, and if I try to write a script, then I just get off key anyway. So, Senator Williams was asking about the generational poverty question, and my wife is an educator. We lived in West Virginia for a couple of years. West Virginia is extremely similar as far as opioid use and poverty situation, because we lived in coal country. There was a Dr. Ruby Payne, my wife, she went to one of her seminars, and her explanation of that and what you're up against is you're not only trying to educate the children in the opportunities that they have for them themselves, but you're also trying to educate the parents and the grandparents, because of that issue. The parents and grandparents are scared their children will leave and they don't have anybody to take care of them. You know, so that, I feel like that's another goal that we have to do, is provide an opportunity for those children to stay and still better themselves at the same time, and so not have to worry about that and not become a burden on anybody else at the same time too. So, you know, a lot of the comments that people gave me back are things y'all already know. The soft skills, like you mentioned, they need to, I guess the two biggest things, training and education. Training is the soft skills, the basic things. They need to learn the basic things so that they can learn the things that they're taught at the job, you know, so, which goes back to educate. It's all the holistic, you know, system. Back to the K-12 education, the main thing, you know, it sounded like it's all kind of going back to that. You know, we do need to start them young, and we do, but instead of maybe focusing on specific items, let's go back to teaching kids how to learn again. I mean, that's, at the end of the day, that's what you got to do. You need to teach kids how to learn, how to use critical thinking skills, how to listen, how to pay attention, how to, you know, how to show up for class. You know, that's one thing, which in turn, how to show up for work, how to be on time, how to dress for work. And so that's a lot of the things that everybody kind of gave me on that. You know, you get, they want a job, but then they don't want to work when they get the job, you know, things like that. So, like I said, I'm not an expert on that, but I know a little bit about Rosedale and the port. Been there 15 years. We've got, it says 8 existing tenants. That doesn't include the public terminal, which is what we operate, but we only have, currently we have 5 full-time employees, and then we have, let's see, we got 4 part-time seasonal. Uh-oh, did I do something? Put that down, playing with it till I need it. I probably did. There you go, perfect, that's great. And I will say, as difficult as it can be to find good seasonal help, being that we're highly agricultural, we have 3 grain elevators. The public terminal is used primarily for grain shipment. There are some other things that we can do. There's plenty of things we can do, but there are other things that we do on a periodic basis, depending on what's going on. But one of the grain elevators mentioned that this is the best crew of seasonal help that he's had in quite a while, and I'll say the same thing for the guys that we've got this year, which is kind of unique that, you know, that you're actually bragging on your help, but your part-time help, because a lot of times they're not trained. Now, a couple of them, one of them has worked for us before, one of them has worked for another elevator, so they are somewhat skilled. They're, you know, just, they're still, some of them are still limited. One of them, he's scared of heights and scared of water, so he stays back and operates the truck. So, I mean, like, well, there's not a whole lot you're going to be able to do, but it's all right. We'll find something for you to do. We need some help. So, out of these 8 tenants, so we've probably got around, and the number changes, around 500 or so employees. out at the port. 300 of them roughly are Jantran employees, and that's, you know, working on boats, and they're probably, I'm gonna say they probably got 30 or so there on site, and then the rest of them are out on boats, and of course they're working 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and so you gotta have, you know, twice that number. Anyway, so these are, you know, they're all fairly well-known businesses, and lots of different things, but 3 grain elevators, 2 fertilizer terminals, a steel fabricator, which is Survey Steel, and then a grease and lubricant manufacturer, which is actually over in the industrial park. They all stay extremely busy, but as Senator Sparks mentioned, this is some of our current projects that we have and future projects that we're actually working on. We've received federal funding and state funding. We've been very fortunate over the years. The majority of our grant funds have come through MDOT, through the Multimodal Transportation Improvement Program. There is the new SMIF program, Strategic Multimodal Investment Fund. We've been fortunate and have received money from both of those. And between that and the federal funds, in the 15 years I've been there, I've been able to get draw down about $40 million in investment in infrastructure investment, and some of it at the public terminal. A lot of it actually has a port-wide benefit. You know, it benefits everybody at the port, not just the public terminal, even though that still is a benefit as well. But we have two federal grants that we're working on at the moment. It's an extremely long process. One of them is going to replace this, what we're calling Belt 3 and Belt 4. They have 2 conveyors that are on one floating dock system, which is not really the best design anyway. And so we're actually, one of them is in really bad shape and needs to be repaired. So we're going to replace it and then stabilize the other one, and we'll have 2 separate belts. We'll actually have 4 separate locations there where we can load 3 barges simultaneously if we need to. We can still unload also for anybody that we need to do. This kind of gives you just a little quick overview of basically what I said. This is just a little schematic of the stabilization of the belt that's going to stay there, and then this is a completely brand new system, which we're not only just building another belt, we're actually upgrading it and improving what's there so that we can you know, create new markets for it, bring in new customers. We already have, you know, several companies that are interested in utilizing this system once we finally get it in place. But it's just unfortunately not going to take it's going to take longer than what we'd hoped, but we're going to get it there. It's going to be good. You know, like I said, just taking advantage of the opportunities that we have there. We're the closest port on the Mississippi River to the mouth of the Arkansas system. That's something a lot of people don't realize and don't understand, but every barge that goes up and down the Arkansas stops in Rosedale because of the fact of where we are, and they're basically getting off of a commercial flight and getting onto a puddle jumper and then going back and forth, and so they're waiting on those rides there. We're just a hub for all that, which is still kind of unseen advantage or unseen opportunity that we just hadn't really taken full advantage of yet, or people on the Arkansas River as well, because we've been able to help them in times of low water or other issues that they may have had because their barges are already sitting there, and so we've been able to help them out when something happens and they can't make it up or down the Arkansas. This is actually another multimodal project that we're working on, but we're going to take this and kickstart it, and we've applied for another federal grant for this. But it seems real simple, but when all the trucks come into the port, there's so many of them, and it's just one road in, and everybody's all on the same side, and so everybody's just trying to figure out where to go. And so trying to make things, that's one thing that I've tried to do, is just try to make things a lot more efficient and you know, make it easier for people. This project right here is something that's gonna be really, really good. We're one of the few ports on the river that has readily available, accessible property on the waterfront. However, the properties that we have, there is a little bit of a bottleneck in front of two of them. And then we're too shallow on the other end where we have another spaces available on the north end. What we're working on now, and I've been working on this for about 8 years now with the Corps, because it's an amendment to our authorization, and so it's an extremely slow process. A lot of people didn't think we would even be able to get it done, and I was just hard-headed enough to keep at it, and they finally, broke. But what we're gonna do, we're actually gonna widen our entire channel. We're gonna move the channel over where the bottleneck is, making these two sites that are really, really attractive from the land side, but it's just too narrow there, and particularly during harvest season right now when the water's extremely low, but it's always low during harvest, which is also our busiest time of year. So it makes it even worse when you're trying to transgress through here. But we'll go from an authorized width of 150 feet to 185 here. And then in this area, it'll go to 200, which will actually essentially move it over a little bit and get it away from some of the issues that we have there. And it will actually extend our channel, make it all the same depth, all the way to the end of, basically to the end of our usable property and the end of the harbor. And so that would open up a lot of opportunities for new businesses that have looked there, and they don't necessarily have the space that they need for that, but they will now. And like I said, I've been working on it about 8 years. They said don't expect construction to start until about 2026. So I mean, it's going to be a little while longer yet, but it's going to get done. And it's 80-20 expenditure. The Corps will pay for 80%. I'll probably come and ask them for some help on the 20. So. All right, that's it. I thought I had something on the railroad, but I'm also working on the railroad as well, which will be a huge advantage as long as we can keep Genesee and Longman keeping the C&D open for us, so I can get back to the CN. So that is it. I apologize if I rambled a little bit, but if y'all got any questions, I can try to answer.
No, thank you very much for coming, and obviously very important, as it always has been on the river. But again, I think you might be underselling just a little bit. You've worked really hard to put a lot of programs together, just because I've witnessed some of it and I've been there when some of that came together. You mentioned the industrial park. I assume you're connected to an industrial park. Is that county owned as well?
It's county owned as well. The Economic Development District owns that. We have an Economic Development Foundation, Economic Development District, but anyway, they're all basically essentially the same. They're run through the chamber, but the district owns the industrial park. It's roughly 250 acres.
Okay.
It is right across the levee and across Highway 1 from us. We don't control it necessarily, but for all intents and purposes, probably anybody that's going to locate there is going to want access to the river.
Well, that's where my next question
Yeah.
was. If you're widening
Yeah.
or expanding,
the
you're
industrial park
opening
is
up
basically up in
your
that corner
the
there.
industrial park to potentially more tenants.
It would, and the rail line, when we get it refurbished, I'm gonna say it probably touches at least a third of the boundary of the industrial park, if not more. And so that would give you direct access for, a rail yard, or at least a business looking to locate on the rail or have rail access. And we're one of the few ports that doesn't have an active rail line, and with everything that we've got going on, I know some people think that it may take away from the business that we have on the river, but I really see it as the exact opposite, and actually increase what we have going on there, which, makes more sense, and in the fact that, helping to, defer the wear and tear on our roads and bridges that we're obviously facing, and, just kind of really help promote freight movement in our area. So, yeah.
The last thing for me, and then I'll yield any questions from the committee. when you talk about seasonal help, are you talking about just adding a few people at the port?
Right.
Okay, but in the region, and you may not be familiar with this, don't try to answer it if you don't know, that's fine. But is there a large uptick of, I assume, seasonal help when it's harvest time? It seems obvious, but just.
It is,
Okay.
it is. And the other issue that we have, and we faced in the past, and I may have overlooked that, is, there's definitely, which everybody is aware, certainly a lot more automation everywhere, but there's a lot more automation in anything agriculture related. Some of it is safety concerns, you know, so there was the need for that, but then a lot of it is for the lack of labor, but also just easier to do it that way. There again, in turn though, you may have fewer jobs, but the jobs you have could be higher paying jobs because you have to maintain that automation and those types of things. We have a huge uptick of, you know, truck drivers, and so you have local truck drivers that they just kind of limp along the rest of the year, but harvest season, that's Christmas for them. So they do extremely well during that time of year. It gets really busy around here and really kind of dangerous, which is why I've had to spend so much of the state's money on our road out there. But and that's why we're doing the sign. We're just trying to make it as safe and efficient as possible. But yes, sir, it's definitely in the whole region, and I'm gonna say it's a huge uptick, which could be an issue for other businesses too, looking for help, because everybody's busy on, you know, helping us, so.
Any questions from the committee? Robert, thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate it. Appreciate the work you do.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, we got one more. Does everybody want to power through, or? All right, from the South Delta Planning and Development District, Workforce Director Mitzi Wood, you get to bat cleanup today, Ms. Wood.
Y'all say the best for last.
That's right. Thank you for being with us, and I will let you begin whenever you are ready.
I'm so happy to be here. I appreciate it when Senator Derek Simmons called me, I don't know, one day last week and said he wanted me to ask if I could come, and I said, sure. What do you want me to talk about? And he said, career coaches. And I said, was that all? I mean, we do a lot of stuff. And he said, I'm going to talk about everything. So we'll talk about everything. And I'm Mitzi Woods. I'm the Workforce Director for the Delta Workforce Area, which is 14 counties in, is this my thing?
That's
Huh?
that's not yours?
Yeah, is this mine?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That clicker is yours.
Yeah. Okay, there we go.
Hold
Okay, so here we are in green, the Delta Workforce Area. Let me back up just a second. When I saw Senator Norwood, when I saw Solly, I was like, he kind of looks familiar. My background is community action. When he was over at Human Services and Community Action, we took a break. I said, you know, he said, I knew you didn't recognize me. I said, no, but one of us is aged a little better than the other. Took me a minute, but anyway, it's good to see you, Solly. And I can call him Solly because we had a few knocked heads a few times back in the day, didn't we, Solly? The Delta Workforce Area is 14 counties in the Mississippi Delta. We don't cover all that Frank covers, but we go from Issaquena and Sharkey all the way up to Tunica. We stop at Panola County. We don't go into Tate and DeSoto. South Delta is the fiscal agent for the Delta Workforce Area. We have a board, we have a local elected officials board, but South Delta is the fiscal agent that handles all the work. So I actually work for South Delta Planning and Development District. We have 6 full-time wind job centers in Clarksdale, Cleveland, Greenville, Greenwood, Indianola, and Lexington is just part-time. And those are operated by the Mississippi Department of Employment Security, MDES. And then the Batesville Wind Job Center, which is in the concourse, operated by Northwest Mississippi Community College. Frank mentioned the 4 community colleges that they're all in our workforce area: Coahoma, Holmes, Mississippi Delta, and then Northwest. 4 of their 11 counties are in our district. We receive funding from federal, state, local, private, anywhere I can find a dollar. So when Frank said he wasn't gonna ask for money, Frank and I are on totally different pages there, because if I see a need, I'm gonna find the money. I'm not Frank, and I'm not shy either. We survive on partnerships, and when I talked to Chairman Sparks the other afternoon, he called to talk about what we were gonna do, and I was like, he said, we gotta quit operating in silos. We don't operate in silos, because I can't do anything that I do in the Delta workforce area without all my partners, because I'm gonna be knocking on everybody's door, knocking on everybody's head to try to get what I need when I find a problem and I need a solution. So some of the core federal funding, Title I, which is the Workforce Development Activities, which is our primary funding. Title II, Adult Education and Literacy, that's operated at the Community College Board level, and local education programs. And we're working with MCCB now to try to establish more testing sites in the area. And I think that's probably going to be some private funding that I can get my hands on. Title III is Wagner Filer, which is the labor exchange system at MDES. And then the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, Title IV is rehab services. I got to tell y'all this real quick. We had a guy about 2 months ago from home. I live in Charleston. I work in Greenville, have an apartment here in Cleveland. So when I say I'm in the Delta, I'm all over the Delta. Somebody called me and said he fell off he was a carpenter. He fell off one of those, what do you call it? Yeah, that thing. And broke his foot. And he had ended up having to have his foot amputated. And he was so ready to go back to work, he didn't know what to do. He was at the point where he needed his prosthetic. So we called our good friends at Rehab Services. I got a text yesterday that said he's qualified, he's going to get his prosthetic, and he's ready to go back to work. So that's the kind of things that if you don't have all these partners, you wouldn't be able to figure out how to do that. That's a great story. And then all the partners above, plus the Department of Human Services, TANF staff are located in our Comprehensive Wind Job Center, which is in Greenville. Other workforce partners, local and regional economic development groups such as Delta Council, Nodal Partnership, the Cleveland Bolivar Chamber of Commerce, Washington County Economic Alliance, Greenwood LaFleur Carroll, Crossroads Economic Partnership, and others. And then we're also serving in an advisory capacity with the Mississippi State's National Science Foundation grant, Smart Tech Mississippi, and just found out yesterday they did not get their big grant that they were looking for after this one, but that program is still ongoing. Our total allocation for our federal funds, $4.7 million in 1 year. And I can remember when I first started in this job, our federal allocation was about $17 million. So you see where we've gone in I've been here about 20 years. Because of a 24.5% cut over the last 4 years, we have been actively and still actively seeking funding from other sources. And if we didn't, we wouldn't be able to do half the things we do. You can see the funding levels for adult, dislocated worker, and youth. When Dr. Evans was talking about youth and in-school and out-of-school youth, that I don't have a lot on these slides about it, but some of those opportunities are there, that we have our youth programs that partner with the community college, so that when they graduate from high school, they've also got a community college workforce training certificate of some kind. Maybe it's pharmacy tech, could be CDL permit, whatever it is they want to do their last semester, then the schools work with us and we provide the funding for them to do that. A couple of special projects that I'd like to hit on. We received Governor's Reserve Funds, $132,000 this year and this is funding a new class of our Ag Pilot Apprentices that started in October Dr. Ennis's program here at Delta State. They had about $500,000 available, and I applied for all of it, but they had, that's just because I'm greedy. But they had to give it to all the workforce areas, so I didn't get but a small amount. We have a nurse externship program. It's partnered with the Hospital Association, hospitals, and the schools of nursing to fund 20 nurse externs. And when we talk about that program, it is hopefully it's allowing us to keep nurses in the Delta. That's our immediate goal behind it. Hospital Association works with the schools of nursing, Delta State, Mississippi Delta, Kahoma, wherever, Northwest, wherever there's a school of nursing, and the students sign up for it. They get 320 hours in the summer before their senior year of nursing school, and they earn $12 an hour. And we were told, and I did not know this, but that nursing students that graduate from RN programs or Bachelor of Nursing programs don't stick veins when they graduate from nursing school. They don't know how to stick veins, because they're not taught that in nursing school. That's what I'm told. So if they're externing at a hospital, they get all that exposure. They have a preceptor that does all those kind of things with them, so they get a lot of exposure. Every time I'm in a hospital setting, when my sister was in the hospital, my brother was in the hospital in Oxford or Jackson or Memphis, I was like, where'd you go to school? Delta State or Mississippi Delta? And I've seen a lot of our students that have been through that nurse extern program. It's been really good. And if you know me at all, you know we can't talk about anything we do in the Delta without talking about our lineman training program. We started that at Mississippi Delta Community College in 2010. This was one of those that everybody said, you can't do it, it's too expensive, you can't do it, and I'm like, watch me. Just don't tell me I can't do it. So we have currently in class 29, we've graduated 483 students, including the 19 that are in class now. The post on Facebook with all of them being out working Hurricane Helene and Milton, it's just absolutely amazing. Just absolutely amazing. Just makes my heart happy. We work with, of course, our local EPAs, Kahoma, Twin County, Tallahatchie Valley, Entergy, and then our private construction contractors. This is a 16-week program. It was one of the first programs that we operated, and I think most workforce areas operated, where we pay the students a stipend to go to class. Because if you've got a decent job but you want to be in this field, you can't just quit and go to class for a semester, 16 weeks, without some assistance. So we gave them $5 an hour stipend to help with gas and meals. They can eat in the cafeteria, that pays for their gas, that's $200 a week. And the training is free. And when somebody was talking about having to buy their boots and stuff, we buy their boots. We pay them, we buy their boots, we provide everything they need to be successful in that class. All they have to do is show up and be willing to learn. While we're on that, y'all would love the Lineman Rodeo. It is November 13th. On the campus at Mississippi Delta, where we can't get any other schools to compete with us because we always beat them. So our students just have to compete against each other. So that's always fun. And while we're on that subject, we were in a ratty, rundown trailer. Every time they came to class every day, they had to kick the doors to get the rats out before they would even go into class. So I talked to the president of the college at that time, Dr. Neighbors, and I said, we need a building. He said, I got any money for a building? I said, well, if I get the money for a building, can we build a building? He said, oh yeah, you can build a building. So I raised the money from 6 or 7 different sources: federal, private, state, foundation, and local. And there again, Robert, when you mentioned, they said you couldn't do it. And you just kept on. So you can say no to me once, and you can say no to me twice, and about the third time, you're probably gonna say, just give it to her so she'll leave us alone. So we ended up building a 4,000 square foot building on the campus of Mississippi Delta Community College. It's right across from the baseball field. Y'all should come visit sometimes. It has 2,000 square feet of inside training space and classroom, kitchen, locker rooms, and some offices. It's real nice. But it didn't cost the college anything, and it doesn't cost them anything to run it because our grant to them to run the program every year pays for the cost of the building as well. Okay. Well, excuse me. Enough about that. We have a grant with the Department of Human Services. Sometimes I want to give it back. It's called the Career Step Grant. We have just started our 6th grant cycle in October with a little over $1 million. It's an income-based workforce training program for individuals 18 to 59 who are custodial parents or non-custodial parents with a support obligation for dependent children and incomes at or below 200% of the poverty guidelines. It used to be the custodial part was not there. We could serve anybody that met the 200% poverty guidelines, but then they added the custodial part about 3 years ago. So we're still able to serve a lot of people. And this grant doesn't have a lot of the restrictions that our federal WIOA grant has. So where WIOA might not be able to serve a participant because maybe we've had to limit the eligibility because they've already got a college degree and they want to come back and do something else. This program doesn't have those, so we can do a lot with these participants. Supportive services, tuition, uniforms and boots and testing fees, and you wouldn't believe it, a lot of people don't have an ID, and they can't go to work without an ID, and they got no way to pay. We can pay for an ID with this program, with a lot of our private funding too. So we sub-grant with MDES, the 3 navigators, Northwest Community College has one, and Coahoma Community College has one. And they work with we serve about 500 participants a year to spend that money. We also have a grant with Accelerate. It's called the Match Grant. It's an economic development EDA grant that they received, and with an opportunity later on to apply for a huge piece of that grant. It's called Match. We got a $100,000 planning grant, and it's targeted to specific prime age employment, and it's just real specific, drill down in the census areas where it's going to be. So it's in Greenville. It's near the airport where we're already working on the Greenville airport. So our proposal for that money will be to build us a kind of a portfolio of slick packaging thing that shows the services we offer and how to qualify and all that, so that we can target people that need that we're trying to get to come there, participants and whatever. Office of Workforce Development, Accelerate Mississippi. We didn't have Accelerate, we couldn't survive, so thank y'all so much for accelerating the funding you're providing to them. We have 10 grants. Oops, I forgot. We have 10 grants with Accelerate right now, totaling about $4.4 million, not counting the career coaches. ACI Building Systems in Batesville, Advanced Turbine Training, another piece of Dr. Ennis's Ag Pilot Training here in Cleveland. Baxter Healthcare here in Cleveland, Inca Presswood in Sardis, GE Aerospace in Batesville, Greenville Currents Aerospace Maintenance in Greenville. If that one ever gets off the ground, I'm gonna be a happy girl. Lockers in Batesville. We have a multi-company project in 5 locations. We just started a registered apprenticeship program with Robinson Electric. They called us and said, we want to do a registered apprenticeship. We went, okay. We've done one with our ag pilots. We got them registered last year, so we went to Accelerate, and they start their first class tonight, by the way. It's about $450,000 grant. partners on that, Build Mississippi and Mississippi Delta Community College. So what they're doing with that grant is taking their current employees and upskilling them to a higher level and making them a registered apprentice. So wherever they go, once they complete that 4 years, they'll be registered electrical apprentices wherever they go. And it's something Robinson wanted to do for his employees. He wanted to give them the opportunity to step up. So that grant we're paying for, they're working all day and they're going to class from 5:30 to 8:30 at night. So we're paying a stipend for about $16 an hour for those 3 hours they're in training, because you can't expect them to work 40, 60 hours a week and then go to class. And so that was something we worked out with Accelerate. We also have some on-the-job training, employment opportunities in there. We have some customized training opportunities in there for when they have to go and they're upskilling their staff to different level of opportunities. We also are paying for the instructor, the electrical instructor for that class through Mississippi Delta Community College. So we have a little sub-grant with them, and they're going to pay, their electrical instructor is going to come at night and teach that class. That one's real exciting because Robinson was so excited about, Ryan Robinson was so excited about doing that. And then we have one with Viking Range and Lynx Grills in Greenwood. That total about $4.5 million. And of course, our career coaches, the one thing that Senator Derek Simmons wanted me to talk about, we have 22 career coaches covering 26 high schools in the Delta. And I heard Dr. Evans mention schools versus district, and that's something that Accelerate really focused on this year. Is I don't want you to tell me how many school districts you're serving, I want you to tell me how many high schools. So we have 26 high schools in the Delta, and we're serving all 26 with 22 career coaches, because some of them are smaller schools. One coach is serving 2 schools. And then because we were able to spend a lot of our money last year, they had a little extra money, so they called and said, can you use 2 more career coaches? And I'm like, dadgum right. So we'll add another one here in Cleveland. We looked at the schools with the highest population of seniors, and it was Cleveland High School and South Manoa High School. So we'll be adding, I think November 1st, we'll be adding 2 new coaches there. And I know I talk fast. Let's see. Since we're right here at Delta State University, we partnered with Delta State and Accelerate Mississippi and Mississippi Delta Community College to provide aerial applicator training right here where the only aviation school in the state is located, and right here in the heart of the Delta where all the crop dusters live. $2 million appropriation from Senator Cindy Hyde Smith started it. And then we got an Accelerate grant for the advanced turbine training, and then the Governor's Reserve grants this year. And I think Delta State's scheduled to receive another $2 million. I don't want to be stealing your thunder, Dr. Ennis, but
Carry on.
she announced it she announced it when she visited, didn't she? Another $2 million in 2025 to include $1 million for education, so we can keep this going, and $1 million to continue the development of an Air Tractor 802 Ag simulator. Gonna be state of the art, the only one in the country. That's right here at Delta State. That's gonna be cool. And as part of all of that, we were looking for more money, so registered apprenticeship people Office of Apprenticeship kept saying, why don't you do an apprenticeship program and we can give you some money? And I'm like, it's a lot of trouble. But we did it. So we have ag pilots who are registered apprentices. Class 3 started October the 1st with 11 students. We had 10 the first year, 11 last year, and 11 this year. So that's been a lot of fun. And if y'all want to know how much fuel an 802, the largest crop duster, uses, is 90 gallons an hour. and they get 10 hours of training in that bad boy. So that's, Accelerate is helping pay for that because the return on the investment there, we, one individual, I can't think of his name, I'd tell you if I could, in the first class flew 32 days in June and July and made $50,000. 32 days. That's a return on investment. Another part of aviation is Delta Aviation Project. It's a DOL, DRA Workforce Opportunity for Rural Communities grant. It's with the Mississippi Community College Board, Mississippi Delta, and the Washington County Economic Alliance. We got $500,000 allocated to that from that grant to work on Hangar 173 at the Greenville Airport, which is going to be the training hangar for aviation maintenance. And I think you, Senator Derrick, was, and maybe Senator Sarita also was responsible for the $1.5 million appropriation for the renovation of Hangar 173 that the legislature approved last year. So we're trying to connect our ag pilots and our aviation maintenance and have it all one big happy family right here in the Delta. Some other private workforce funds, Delta Health Alliance, Karen alluded to earlier. We have a couple of grants to just basically do workforce development, career placement, supportive services. And she mentioned the opioid, and that's one grant. And honestly, the participants have to be referred by Delta Health Alliance. And then we take them, get them through the WIN Job Centers, find out what they need, find out what they want, and we can pay for whatever that is, whatever the training is, whatever support services they need, and we cannot get them to participate. It's been really tough. That's that group of opioid, substance abuse. We have a couple of private funding grants from Delta Compass for supportive services and then for healthcare supportive services. So our federal funds are so limited that we can't do supportive services much. So we always have to go after private funding sources to, somebody talked about transportation. We had a lady call me early last year, and she said, I just got a job in Greenwood at mental health department. She had a degree. She didn't have any money. She got up, got to work that morning, and had a blowout. What's she gonna do? So we called our friends at Cannon Motors over there and said, would you put a tire on her, send me a bill? They picked her car up, put a tire on it. That's the kind of things we can do with the private funding sources. It's not just paying somebody a gas card, but we can like help them with gas for like a month till they get a check or something like that. So that's some of the things we do with private funding. Just a couple of linemen climbing the pole. He's doing hurt man rescue right there. Some of our nurse externs in that other picture, and then aerial applicator. He's not really spraying anything but water. In training, they just spray water. So that's been fun. We're targeting the priority occupations that Accelerate has identified. That's Ecosystem 1, which is where our some of our counties are, and then Ecosystem 3. And we tried to show on this slide, and we'll be glad to send this to you, Chairman Sparks, to show you where we're focusing our efforts and trying to meet the needs of identified by Accelerate and everybody else. So back to the workforce participation rate. How is what we're doing affecting the workforce participation rate? And I don't know the answer to that. When Chairman Sparks and I talked, he said we've got to be responsive to the employer needs, and that's what we do. We respond to their needs and then try to figure out what it is. Sometimes they don't know what they need. And I don't mean that in a bad way. They just may not know how it all works together. So we respond to those needs. We work with economic developers, with Britt at Delta Council and our local economic developers. I got a text yesterday. Can you be available November 14th It's my lineman rodeo day, but it's baseball and it's a big possibility, and I didn't sign an NDA, but I still don't think I need to talk about it. So, sure, I'll be there. We provide training in priority sectors, supportive services, we talked a lot about that. And in the collaboration with all the partners. We identify a need, identify the partners, figure out a solution, find the money, and go. And pretty much that's what we do. There's my contact information, the ecosystem coordinator's information, and Cindy Gooden, who is our workforce development coordinator, that kind of tries to keep me straight in the Delta. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Clearly the PDDs, play a strong role across the state, and with the, career coaches being engaged, you're on both ends of it. You've got programs that you're working and delivering that you can show to the students, but also as industry saying these are our needs. So I think that's, talking about the silos, you're obviously, there are no silos, everything is there, but I really do appreciate the work that you guys are doing. The WIOA monies, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, is obviously a tremendous decrease in that funding, and this is where we get caught up on this workforce participation or labor force participation rate. Those monies have plummeted because our unemployment rate is plummeted. Is that correct? Okay.
A lot of it is based on unemployment, and especially the dislocated worker piece of that, those three funding streams is based on unemployment. So when your unemployment is as low as ours is right now, even in the Delta 4.2, we're above the state, but we're still lower than we've been in a very long time. It just cuts into the money.
And that's the disconnect that we're trying to capture, is there's obviously something amiss if unemployment's historically low, but our labor force participation is still high, and you have targeted some of it. I mean, clearly, drug addiction, is one of the issues. You can't even get people to participate in your program because they're not ready to change.
That's right.
And that's, I know I deal with from the court system with intervention courts and things like that, and, they're not ready to change until it's either intervention court or incarceration. So, do you, at the PDD, and if you don't have that data, that's fine, but do you deal a lot with formerly incarcerated individuals with your training, trying to help people get back in the workforce?
We have not dealt a lot. We've not had any specific grants for that. The state, MDES has that PROUD grant, but it's dealing with federal prisons, and they had talked to us about partnering with us in the area, but as it turns out, there are no federal prisons in our area. So right now, we're kind of off the, as I said, I'm like, for real? I'm like, we're kind of off the hook on that one right now. But if the opportunity presents itself, most certainly we will. And we do try to help those formerly incarcerated, depending on what job they're applying for, whether they had a felony conviction or whatever it was, then we do try to work with them.
And I want to make sure I understand on this Robinson Electric situation, because I've heard more than one person talk about it. The employer's basically working with you to upskill their current employees to be a registered apprentice, which is
Registered apprentice in electrical field.
Which is an amazing upgrade or upskill, if you will.
Right, and they can take that, if they get that, go through, it's a 4-year program. If they go through that 4-year program, then they've got that registered apprenticeship, they're a journeyman, they can take that with them anywhere they go and make a lot more money. He's also, he's got on-the-job training money in there for new hires. So when he's hiring somebody new and he's not able to put them in the apprenticeship program yet, then we can help him with on-the-job training, which pays, reimburses him half the salary for up to 320 hours. So it's a big, and the fact that they wanted it so bad, that Brian Robinson wanted it so bad, has made it a lot of fun to work with.
And then finally, your lineman program, you've had 483 graduates. Just, if you know, the majority of those stayed in the region, stayed in the state, or I know we're close over here to some state lines.
They start local.
Okay.
They start local, because the locals come and watch them participate. They'll come just any random day and watch them climb, watch them safety. They come to the rodeos, and the first time a storm hits and they see all their buddies going off and working a storm and making triple time for a construction contractor, they're gone. And then eventually they come back. They go out and make that money, and I was just thinking when Karen was talking about and somebody mentioned the financial literacy piece, it's not just for kids. It's not just for high schools. These individuals, and we're starting to teach it, we're starting to bring somebody in to teach it, because one class, when whichever hurricane hit Puerto Rico, or maybe two in a row, MDR, a construction company, came in and hired all 22 graduates and sent them to Puerto Rico. Those guys went over there and made a killing. Made a killing. They bought new side-by-sides, new trucks, new boats. It was just like you like watching them on Facebook. They come back home and they decide they're tired of traveling. They want to work at home. And this was honest to God story. The HR manager at Delta Electric said this one young man came in. He said, "I've got to go back to work for a contractor." He said, "I got myself in so much debt when I made all that money because nobody taught him you can't just go out there and buy everything and get in debt." The HR manager there now at Delta Electric, Mike Maloney, says when he sees one drive up in a new truck, he says, "Take it back. You're not there yet. You can't afford it yet, so take
Be
it back."
careful, Cannon, and quit fixing tires for you now. Any questions from committee members? Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate what you do, and thank you for the information. It was very helpful, and I'm sure we'll be following up to get some more information from you.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation, and call me anytime, because you can tell I like talking.
All right.
I don't mind being the last thing of the day.
There you go. Well, thank you again, and we obviously will reconvene tomorrow, and thank you again to Delta State and the IT team here, who is streaming this, also recording it for us, so that we can actually upload it back to the system on the regular legislative system for our normal process with hearings. But Dr. Ennis, thank you again for having us, and we look forward to being with you again in the morning at 9:30. With that, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
We have 15 people watching.
So where's the stream?